everyone, I'm Kiana, and today I'm going to talk about my topic, which is about oil spills and how they're hazardous to the environment. The topic is linked to the first unit of microhill grade 11 chemistry textbook, which contains information about matter, chemical trends, and chemical bonding. As we all know, oil is one of the main sources of energy, and because it's not evenly distributed, it must get transported across oceans by ships or across land by pipelines. Sometimes the result is accidental oil spills when loading, transporting, and unloading oil. While massive oil spills capture most of our attention, smaller ones happen regularly. This spill result in contamination of oceans, coasts, and stories, while causing human health problems. Today, my presentation is going to be about what is oil, characteristics of petroleum or crude oil, types of crude oil, and how oil spills occur, some of the major oil spills, the effects of oil spills on the environment and industry, and the relationship of oil spills to Canada, and then the bibliography. So in the next slide, I'm going to be talking about what is oil. The term oil can be applied to a variety of substances that may be organic or inorganic originally. Oil mostly exists as liquids or can be liquefied when heated and are not soluble in water. They are mostly composed of carbon and hydrogen, or are called hydrocarbons. Today we are going to mostly focus on the natural crude oil or petroleum, which is a complex substance composed of 1,000 different kinds of organic molecules. In the next slide, I'm going to talk about characteristics of petroleum. Petroleum can exist in gaseous, liquid, or partially solid phases, either in combination or alone. The gaseous phase is known as natural gas, the liquid phase is known as crude oil, and the solid phase is known as bitumen. Since petroleum is a natural material, it can get diluted or decomposed by bacteria and other natural agents. The toxic compounds of petroleum or volatile compounds are those that are soluble in water. Here we're going to discuss the molecular composition of liquid proportion of petroleum and its characteristics. Next slide. The crude oil is primarily consists of hydrocarbon compounds, and in addition, crude oil also includes compounds containing sulfur, nitrogen, and oxygen. There are also some small concentration of metals such as nickel and iron. Crude oils vary in color, odor, and flow properties. Usually, these properties are often used to see where the crude is originated from. Some physical properties of crude oil are boiling point, density, odor, viscosity, and that are used to classify oils. Now I'm going to talk about the types of crude oil. There are 3 types of crude oils, which are alkanes, cycloalkanes, and aromatics. Alkanes are a group of hydrocarbons which consist of one or more carbon atoms linked to other 4 atoms that are usually hydrogen atoms. Some of the simpler ones are methane, ethane, and propane, and some larger ones are butane and pentane. The formation in which the carbon atoms are arranged in are categorized into different groups, which is straight chains and branch chains. Cycloalkanes, the next slide, is a group of hydrocarbons which is characterized by a ring of carbon atoms, and one of the most common cycloalkanes is methyl cyclohexane. The next group is aromatics, which contain one or more benzene rings, and are originally called aromatic compounds because of the odor they gave off. Some of the simple aromatic compounds are cortulane and naphthalene. These are the structures of some of the alkanes, cycloalkanes, and aromatics. The next slide is going to be about how oil spills occur. Oil spills, as mentioned, oil is one of the main sources of energy and an important fossil fuel. Since it's often extracted from places that are far away from areas that it gets cleansed and eventually used, it must be transported in large quantities by ships, ocean tankers, inland water barges, and etc. Any of these transportation systems may release pollution by accidental spills of oil or discharges involved with cleaning of the storage tanks and all living cleaners. Referring to the Gale Encyclopedia of Science, some accidental spills have been remarkable in their size and their ecological impact and resulted in huge loss of petroleum. The next slide is showing some of the major oil spills, such as the Gulf War and the Mexico oil spill. The next slide is about the effects of oil spills on the environment. Oil spills have many different effects on the environment. Oil burns are one of the most frequent known outcomes of oil spills, but there are also less obvious effects such as the loss of phytoplankton and microscopic organisms. Oil can affect animals in many ways, including their feeding and reproductive behavior and causing the loss of habitat. Some of more developed animals, such as birds, can get behavioral changes such as failure to take care of their nest and in result losing their eggs. And some might even stop laying eggs. As mentioned, feeding behavior might also change. Fish are usually exposed to sublethal concentration of hydrocarbons. The age of fish is really important in terms of its sensitivity to hydrocarbons, and adult fish are usually less sensitive than the young ones. For example, adult salmon is about 100 times less sensitive than the juvenile salmon. Oil exposure can cause a range of physiological and pathological conditions, some that are temporary and are not a risk to health and survival. The other group of animals we are going to talk about are marine species is planktons, which are small plants and animals that live in water, include phytoplankton and zooplankton. Plankton are important source of food in aquatic food chain, and oil ingested or absorbed by these organisms can get passed higher in the food chain and get digested by fish or mammals. Both phytoplankton and zooplankton are different in terms of sensitivity to hydrocarbons. They are killed by relatively low concentration of oil, but because of the huge amount of them, it doesn't really affect the whole population. Some of the sublethal effects on planktons are narcosis, reduced feeding, and failure of giving normal responses to light. The next slide is about marine mammals. The effect of oil spills on marine mammals may vary in relation to the species. Some of the marine mammals that are affected are sea lions, seals, walruses, whales, and dolphins. Because they are highly in public view, it caused much of public concern when they are oil. Seals, sea lion, and walruses are the most sensitive since they live on shorelines of small islands, rocks, or remote coasts. And there are not many alternative habitats available for them. Some of the young ones that die from oiling, it's because their coats are not developed enough to provide a protective covering in an oil stain. Oiling can also cause the fur to lose waterproofing or buoyancy. Those species that rely on the fur to regulate their body temperature when oil lose their ability and die from overheating or hypothermia, depending on the season they are in. Now the next slide is about contamination of coastal comfort areas is a common feature of oil spills that leads to interference with recreational activities. Industries that rely on seawater for their daily operations, such as power stations and desalination plants that draw large quantities of seawater are also at risk. The fishing industry is also affected by the result of oil spills. One important cause for concern is the contaminated fishes and seashells and other marine species. Oil spills can also damage the boats and gears used for catching and collecting marine species. And it also, these oil spills cause economic loss for fishermen. Now the next slide is about oil spills in Canada. With an increasing population and more widespread use of oil, there is a greater demand for transportation of crude oil, and that's resulting in accidental oil spills. Approximately half of all hazardous spills in Canadian waters are from oil and pure petroleum products. 5 to 10 oil spills are reported in Canada each day. And there is a recent article in the Montreal Gazette which is stating that Canada was sending half of its stock of oil to help with decreased disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. And that shows that this amount of oil stock can hardly protect one of the Toronto's islands, and that shows that we are in a big problem. And the next slide is my bibliography, and that's it. Thank you for your attention.